welcome into the Hog Roundup with Tye Richardson. As always, that's Tye Richardson. I'm Evan Kamiko. Tye, it's a fun one this weekend down in Lexington. I think a lot of people, not only here in Arkansas, not only over there in Lexington and Kentucky, but really around the entire country are excited for this matchup, the return of John Calipari to Lexington. Let's get your first initial thought on kind of where Arkansas is right now this season before heading to Lexington.
Well, I mean, 1-6. I don't think anyone expected that through nearly half the conference slate. When I looked at this game and they initially came out with it, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to drive the 10 hours to Lexington. This is going to be a battle of top 15, top 10 teams potentially. And Kentucky was on a slide prior to that win against Tennessee earlier this week. Arkansas still on that same slide, unfortunately, only with one conference win. It's not what anyone expected in Lexington or in Fayetteville, but it's still a massive game. I mean, think about it. ESPN decided that we're going to put this Arkansas-Kentucky game at 8 o'clock after the number one rivalry in college basketball, Duke and North Carolina. So they're anticipating more people watching what happens in Lexington versus the best rivalry game in college basketball. I don't know if it'll pan out like that, but TV executives, they elected to do it. So we'll see what happens Saturday night in Rupp.
Yeah, and it's fun that you bring that up because I know at least Courtney was tweeting the other day that she was like, why isn't college game day at, Rupp Arena for Cal's return to kind of add even more to that? Because look, let's be honest, Duke UNC, one's the number 2 team in the country, one's a borderline bubble team. It has a lot more value, and I think that's why they're going there. Do you agree that college game day should be in Lexington this weekend, or are you okay that it's in North Carolina?
I would say you probably stick it in Durham. I think that's where the game's at. Cooper Flagg's been unbelievable. So there's 2 types of hype, right? There's the hype of John Calipari, and I'm not saying that he's done or anything, but the hype for at least this season has been a failure. Like, this is not what anyone expected in Fayetteville outside of this campus. Maybe fans in Lexington claim, oh, we expected this. I don't think they really truly believe that. And then you look at what the freshman phenom has done in Durham. I mean, he's lived up to the hype. He's been fantastic. And I hate talking glowingly about a Duke player because Duke's one of the teams that you just love to hate, but he's been awesome. So, yeah, they should be there for that game. I guess the only flip side of that is North Carolina's terrible this year. I mean, Hubert Davis got to figure it out. I know he took the reins from Coach Williams just a few years ago, but they're not good this year. So better hope RJ Davis and that team gives them a fight. Otherwise, that could be a real ugly game, even as tight as that series has been and those games have been over the years.
Yeah, and UNC, to add to insult, I think they just lost earlier this week to Wake Forest to put them even lower down on that bubble watch. But let's talk about the game that we're here to talk about, the game that at least the people who watch our content care about, and that's Kentucky and Arkansas. Just your initial thought on the matchup. Kentucky coming off a really big win at Tennessee, where they were without Lamont Butler, their starting point guard, and without Andrew Carr for a lot of that game. What impressed you about Kentucky in the last week or so?
I think it's the fact that Pope can bring his guys in waves. I didn't realize they were that deep. I've watched them several times this season, but you think about Owe from Oklahoma. Butler's the kid they plucked away from San Diego State, but like you mentioned, hadn't played. Haven't really seen much on his status. We're going to get the injury update, obviously, on Saturday, but they've got a lot of guys. And I think what's worrisome and concerning for Arkansas fans and the team and Cal and everyone else is Oklahoma. Porter Moser decided to press them, and they got worn down. If you're only going to play 8 guys, if I'm Mark Pope's shoes, I'm doing the exact same thing Mosier did. I'm pressing the entire game. I'm making sure that DJ Wagner, Billy Richmond, and John L. Davis's legs are worn down by the end of this game come Saturday night. Because if they implement a similar type of just like style against Arkansas, I just don't know how they win this game. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer or the bearer of bad news, but first off, you're going up against better competition than what you have on your own roster. You're going into a hostile environment. I guess the pressure is going to be on Kentucky kids to perform. But yeah, it could. I hope it doesn't get ugly, but it might after, and especially since Kentucky found a way that win that game in Knoxville. If they hadn't, they would have lost 3 and 4 headed in, and I think their butts would have been real tight. But I think they're a little more relaxed after this win against Tennessee this week, Evan.
Yeah, and to add, insult to injury for Kentucky and for at least Arkansas fans who have to hear this is a Kentucky team that was, a couple minutes away from being, and really a couple good 3-point looks from Kentucky from being under 500, from Tennessee, I should say, from being under 500 in conference play. It's not like this is necessarily a Kentucky team that's been there, but I think the saving grace for this team is that they like to get the ball out in transition. They like to play fast, and they score a lot of points. It's something where, Kentucky has scored over 70, 90 points so far in conference play, and we haven't only seen Arkansas score over 70 points once in conference play, and that was against Oklahoma last week when they ended up losing that game. And Tennessee kind of was able to shoot the ball. They couldn't shoot the ball, but that was Kentucky's strategy, was saying, hey, we're going to give you all these 3-point looks that you're going to get, and you're going to have to beat us over the top. And for a team like Arkansas, who's not a Michigan State team, that Michigan State can go out and beat you in a million different ways except shooting the 3-ball. Arkansas is not a team that can do that. We haven't seen them do that once, so they're going to have to shoot the 3-ball this weekend to beat a team like Kentucky.
I love the Big Ten references.
I have to bring them in.
I know. But on that note, it's very similar to this team last year. While you have a completely different core of players outside of Trev, this team couldn't shoot. They were having to win, try and get to the foul line and play defense. I know Muss's teams have had to do that before, but they weren't as offensively as limited as last year's team. And this one, you can make a case they're even more offensively limited based on just the 8 guys and based on the points. I mean, they have the worst field goal efficiency in the Southeastern Conference. And I don't even know how close it is. So they're going to win tomorrow. They're going to have to knock down some threes. Cal would take 9 of 27 right now if he could, like they hit against Oklahoma. If they get anywhere near double digits, this game could be a little closer than Pope and the Kentucky faithful want it to be. But that's the Achilles heel. I think at times they look good defensively. They lack rebounds, which is sometimes effort. Sometimes it's just a height thing. But I mean, if you can't shoot the ball today, you're going to have a real time winning against some prolific teams like Kentucky. And they got a lot of weapons, a lot of guys that can shoot it. You saw Robinson, Kobe Brea. They've got other guys off the bench that can knock down threes, and that's just going to be that's going to be a problem for Arkansas and Rupp this Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. We've kind of talked about a bit of the game. I'm curious, when we talk about the reception of Coach Cal, going back to Rupp Arena, it's something that's been talked about, I think, with the national. You look, Rick Pitino was saying something earlier today, saying, hey, don't boo the guy, give him their round of applause. And, they're not, of course, the closest of friends. What do you think that reception's going to be like for Coach Cal when he steps foot and being introduced as the opponent and being introduced as the Arkansas Razorback head coach?
Evan, I think the boos are going to rain down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's fair. I'm not saying that's right, but I just think that's what's going to happen. I listened to Pitino coming back into Rupp, and it was not as bad as I thought it was. And you referenced his clip that he put out earlier this week. I listened to a Kentucky fan call into Mark Pope's show on Monday and voice the opinion of, hey, we need to be clapping and giving some like a congratulatory welcome back to John Calipari. And while that may be the thought of some fans, I think it's going to be overwhelmingly negative when it comes to him stepping foot in that arena Saturday night for the first time. And since he's donning another uniform.
Yeah, my mind goes straight to kind of the student section. And I think a lot of the older Kentucky fans will, give him a round of applause. He brought a national championship in and all this NBA talent that we've seen on some of the top names in the sport, Devin Booker, Cat, some of these other guys. But then you look at the last couple of years and the guys who have been in college, the seniors and juniors who saw the kind of end of the Coach Cal era there at Kentucky, and it didn't end well. And that's where you really start to think, oh, these guys really, you think about it as a fan. If it's a coach that ended in disappointment the last couple of years, as a student, would you be overly happy, to welcome the guy back? I know at least I wouldn't. We talk about Big Ten and we talk about Indiana right now. Everyone's up in arms about Woodson coming back, and am I part of that brass right now? Absolutely, but that's me as a fan. But so I think, to your point, you're going to have really two sides of the coin of the younger fans who saw the end of the Cal era and them losing in the tournament to 13, 14 seeds the last couple of years. And then, the older fans who appreciate all of the good that he's done in Kentucky with all of the talent and all of the, championships that he won.
And Evan, think about what you were like as a student, how irrational, how ignorant, and frankly, how much of a wordsmith you were at times, yelling at opposing coaches and players. And when you add in all the the volatility and all the anger towards how Cal left, when you couple that with copious amounts of alcohol, Kentucky bourbon, it's going to be loud, and it's going to be, I would guess, obscene from that student section. I tend to agree. There'll be some older fans that clap and are happy to see Cal back, and obviously a different suit that he's used to donning inside a Rupp Arena. I just think that as like a fan of either team, this is an event. I wish, again, I was planning on going. I know Jacob and Courtney here going with y'all's team this weekend. You got to take it all in. This might be the biggest basketball event college wise of the season outside of the NCAA tournament. This superseded the national championship conversation that Cal was potentially leaving Lexington and coming to Fayetteville. So he just has a gravitas. He just has something about him that no other coach in the country has. Is he the best anymore? No. I think that's kind of showcased itself the last 5 years. But again, when it comes to college basketball and the aura that is John Calipari, there's no one that can match him today. With Krzyzewski gone, Roy Williams gone, Jay Wright gone. Just he's kind of in a class of his own, Evan.
Yeah, him and maybe Tom Izzo somewhere near there, but those you said it best. I think we should just move on at that point. The last thing let's talk about, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the Senior Bowl this week down in Mobile, Alabama. What do you think is the key matchup? If Arkansas were to go into Rupp Arena, what has to happen? Do they have to shoot well, like we've kind of already mentioned, or do we need to see the guards getting downhill and attacking and then being physical?
I think the guards you're going to see John L. Davis and DJ Wagner and Billy Richmond, and he's not really guard, but he's having to play a little point with Boogie Fland going out. It's like, can you get it the offensive sets quick, and can you get stuff going? If Kentucky shoots the three ball at a high clip, this game's over. I mean, it'll be a 15, 20-point drubbing, and Arkansas fans like myself will be in our sorrows come Saturday night, and Kentucky fans will be joyous. But if they limit them, I mean, if you're in a situation where this thing's tight at the end of the second half, Kentucky's going to be the one that has the pressure put on them because their fans are calling for blood in this game. I mean, this is as hostile a place and an environment that either of these guys, and we talk about it just being like Cal going home. DJ Wagner's going home. Big Z's going home. Deuce Thero's going home. And I know those guys didn't have the impact as, let's say, Reed Shepard or Rob Dillingham last year, but they were still key contributors. And that's also going to be a really interesting experience. So how those three handle it is also, I think, something I'm going to keep an eye on ESPN Saturday night.
Yeah, something that Cal referenced earlier today. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl. 4 Hogs from the 2024 roster down there right now: Landon Jackson, Eric Gregory, Jaquindon Jackson, as well as Isaac Tesla. And I think the most that we've seen from the Senior Bowl has been 2 really awesome Isaac Tesla highlights. Are you surprised that finally Tesla is getting some, his moment to shine? We saw it a lot this season, and now it looks like he's really picking up steam to being, considered from that 6th, 7th round to maybe even earlier when it comes to wide receivers.
Oh, you think about the touchdown in the Texas A&M game and Jared Wool. You think about the bowl game where it was thought that he was going to really be the alpha receiver. I know Desmond James, now departed Desmond James, kind of stole the show with that insane touchdown. But he showed flashes, got great hands, is a guy that Sam Pittman had nothing but glowing things to say about. And hopefully he'll get on a roster and make it happen somewhere. You mentioned a couple highlights that he's had. It's always encouraging when you're going up against some of the better upperclassmen in college football and you get a chance to shine. I mean, I love Landon Jackson, good old Lando, what he was able to do at times this season. I know, again, he didn't have much help on that defensive line versus a disruptor. Jaquindon, when he was healthy, man, he was banging. He was fun to watch. And then also Eric Gregory, you think about that play he made, not just one play, but several plays he made in that Tennessee upset. I know most notably remember him pushing Nico out of bounds at the tail end of that game. So for those 4 guys, some were like Eric was in his 6th year as a Razorback. He was here a lot longer than, let's say, Jaquindon. Isaac was here 2 years. Lando was here after transferring in from LSU. Just seeing the Razorback is pretty cool. I know that Dylan Gabriel's donning Oregon, Oklahoma.
His helmet's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So it's just a different world we live in now today, Evan.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch. Tye, anything else before we wrap up?
I would just, I would hope, Evan, that as you look at what's happened this season for Arkansas basketball, and you couple that with the season ticket renewal, which I know people were ticked about, In some cases, I would say rightfully so. In others, the athletic department is just doing what they're doing. I just hope that it's going to be worth it. Like if people reinvest or first timers say, you know what, I'm going to spend this money because I trust in Cal. Um, I hope that their investment pays off because I mean people work their ass off in this state, man. And I just want to make sure that I say make sure. I just hope that John Calipari and this staff and the new crop of players he brings in next season, probably one that most notable for Springdale's own Isaiah Sealy, that it works out because this season has just been anything but that. We'll see if next season has a better pot at the end of the tunnel, a golden pot at the end of the tunnel, because unfortunately this year has not been that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at who else he's bringing in, 2 recruits in the top 10. His highest recruit, which is Boogie this past year, didn't even break the top 15. So a lot more high-end talent is hopefully coming to Fayetteville next year when all is said and done. We know the world we live in, anything could happen at any given moment, especially with the transfer portal. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It'll be really intriguing to see what happens with all the fans. And I know Hunter Yurachek was on the Chuck and Bo show earlier today talking about all of that and what's going into that decision. So all things that we've got to monitor as, Cal, unfortunately, at this point, it looks like we're now looking forward to year 2 of the John Calipari era. But first, he's got to return to Lexington this weekend. Should be a good one. Like I said, Courtney Mims, Jacob Morris are going to be out there for us. Tye, as always, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. Last thing, anything else before we go? Anything else? Super Bowl prediction? Or are we a week early?
Oh, yeah, I would say you can't bet against Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I guess I should be taking advantage, even though I'm cheering for the other team. I guess I should be putting money on the Chiefs and just hoping they still lose. If I lose money, it's okay. But the fact that Patrick Mahomes is as clutch as he is in these situations, I mean, Josh Allen looked like his soul had been sucked out of him after that game.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done that to so many good quarterbacks these last few years, with the exception of Tom Brady and Joe Burrow. So I don't know how you can root against the Chiefs, even though I don't know how you could bet against the Chiefs, even though I'm going to be rooting as maybe hard as I ever have for the Philadelphia Eagles in this game a week from Sunday.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends who are Eagles fans, so I haven't picked a side yet. Good thing we still got another week, but should be, like we say on the Hog Roundup, another great weekend of Arkansas athletics. Like we've said, basketball is going Senior Bowl this weekend. Arkansas track and field will be home for the Razorback Invitational. A lot of top talent on the track and field there as well. Softball opens up the season next week. Tye, before you know it, we're in the spring season and it's full go. So as always, Tye, thanks for joining us. That's going to do it for the Hog Roundup with Tye Richardson. For Tye, I'm Evan Camico. We'll see you back here next Friday.